Cheetah Sisters! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I am actually doing another scary urban legend story time like I promised you guys every week. And you know, as I was doing my research on all of these crazy urban legends, I noticed that Japan has like some real scary stuff going on. I don't know if it's like super haunted in Japan or what, but a lot of the urban legends I read were from there, and those were actually the scariest, like the American ones and stuff. I mean, yeah, they're scary. The Latin ones are pretty scary too, but like the Japanese ones, girl, they are scary. So basically this one is about an 8-foot tall woman who abducts children. So I mean, I'm just gonna jump into it, but right before I do, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Give this video a big thumbs up. Come on guys, it literally takes no effort. Just click that thumbs up button, subscribe, and let's get on to the video. There's this little boy and his parents were actually on vacation from work, so he ended up going to stay with his grandparents for the summer. It's like a summer thing, you know, kids are out of school. He was just going to go stay with his grandparents for a little. He hadn't seen them since he was really young, so he decided, hey, I miss them, I want to go see them, right? So, you know, his parents book a flight for him. They take him to the airport. His grandparents are there. They are there with open arms, like they're so excited to see him. He's the only grandchild, so like, you know, they're just super excited. One hot summer day, he's just playing in the backyard like kids do, and his grandparents are in the kitchen. And he lays down on the grass for a rest because, you know, he's been playing so hard, he wants to rest, right? So he lays down to rest, and he's just looking up at the clouds and just taking in the fresh air, and all of a sudden he hears this voice. Well, he doesn't even know if it's a voice yet. He just hears this thing go, po, po, po. Like, I'm just doing it how it describes it, and like a deep masculine voice, right? So he hears that and he's looking around like, what the heck? And he looks in the direction of like this tall excuse me. He looks in the direction of this tall bush, and he sees eyes peering through, like, and he just sees like her eyes, like this part, and you know, the bush is covering like all of her body, so he just sees like there's like a gap of like her eyes and her hat, right? So she's just like staring at him, and he looks at her. He was just scared because the bush was so tall. It was like 8 feet tall, and he's like, is she wearing some type of high heel shoe that makes her super tall? Like, what, you know? And he sees the hat is starting to move, like, you know, and then a second later she just walks off, and he's like, what the heck? Like, what the heck was that, right? So he just roams back into his house, and he's sitting at the table, and it takes him a minute to speak up about it because there's probably all these things running through his head, like, did I even see that? He's sitting there, and then all of a sudden he tells his grandparents, like, I saw this woman, and at first they're not really paying attention to him, and then he tells them the sound that she made, and they instantly stopped what they were doing and they looked at him, and his grandpa ran and called somebody, and like they were making like this huge deal. And you know, she was basically, the grandma was basically, sorry, I keep hearing like flies, like there's a fly in here. She basically asked like how tall was she, and he was like, he told her like, he was like as big as that bush outside, and she was like, she was basically just freaking out, and the grandpa was like, I'm gonna go take care of that one thing to the grandma, and he was like, don't take your eyes off of him for a second. And the little boy's like, what the heck, where is grandpa going? What is he gonna go do, you know? So the grandpa came back with this old woman, and her name was Kei-san. So let me rewind for 1 second, and I just wanted to say one thing. So the woman was actually captured and held in this building surrounded by like these religious statues, and she just couldn't get out because I don't know if she's so evil she can't pass them or what, but basically she was stuck there, and somehow she was stuck there for 15 years, and somehow she got out. Like, nobody knows how. but she escaped, and that's when the little boy saw her, was after she had escaped. So jumping right back in, the old woman came back with the grandpa, and basically she told him he had to stay in this room for a certain amount of time. He had to stay in there until 7 a.m. the next morning. So, you know, they walk into the room that he is going to be staying in, and there's a blue bucket on the floor, and he's like, what is that bucket for? And they told him, for you to do your business, basically. Like, that's for you to take your number ones and number twos. And he was like, oh dang, like he was just like, he didn't know what to believe, you know, like he was just shocked, but he knew he had to listen to them if he wanted to be safe, because he was freaked out, you know. He tried to distract his mind. He was watching TV, he was reading, he was just, you know, trying to distract himself. So the little boy had fallen asleep, and when he woke up, it was just after 1 a.m. and he hears this tapping at his window. It's like, and he's like, what the heck? Like, so he ignored it, and he turned the TV up, the volume on the TV up, because he didn't, obviously he was like, oh, maybe it's the branches from the trees. Like, he didn't want to think like, oh, it's that creepy girl, that creepy woman outside my house, right? He hears his grandpa calling him from the other side of the door, and he's basically telling him like, oh, it's all over now, like you can come out, everything's safe, like just open the door for me. And he's excited, you know, he's about to open the door, and he's like, but wait, like it's not 7 o'clock in the morning yet, you know? So he's hesitant, and you know, his grandpa's like, what are you doing? Like, come on, open the door. He starts getting scared, so he backs away from the door, and he's like trembling. And there was, I forgot this part, but they put salt in these bowls. Like, I guess I don't know what it does, but they basically put salt in these bowls, and the salt in the bowls was turning black. So he was like, yeah, that's definitely not my grandpa. He was freaking out, and all of a sudden the tapping on the window started up again. So he's like hearing this, and he's hearing freaking the doorknob jingling, and he's like, oh my gosh. So he kneels. There's this statue, this Buddha statue, and he's like kneeling by it in the room. I guess it's supposed to keep him safe, and he's like crying, and he's like thinking it's never gonna end. And then eventually at 7:30 in the morning, he checks his watch, and he's, you know, he opens the door, and his grandmother and Kei-san were standing outside the door waiting for him. And he goes downstairs, and he's surprised to see that his mom and his dad are there, and they're like, come on, we've got to get going. And so they go outside, and there's this black van waiting for him. He sees this black van waiting outside of his grandparents' house, so they told him, you know, get in the van. And he gets in, and there's 8 men in there, and Kei-san is in the driver's seat. So she's driving, and one of the men tell him, you know, I see you got yourself in some trouble. Like, we can't see the spirit, but we know that you can, so just keep your head down and, you know, pray. So they're driving, and then Kei-san says, this is where it gets hard. And so she starts praying under her breath, and the little boy from outside hears that po 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 voice, right? So he's freaking out, and he sees the woman running, like not running, but like basically, you know, keeping up with the van. She leans down and peers inside of the van and looks at him and says, po 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 po. Like, I'm sorry, I can't do it well, but just imagine like how freaky that would be. So the man beside the little boy says, keep your eyes closed. And he hears tapping on the window and the voice, and he hears the woman Kei-san, you know, she's praying louder now. The po 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 voice is louder now, the tapping is louder now, and the tension in the van was just unbearable for him. And then all of a sudden, all of it stops altogether, and Kei-san says, I think we're safe now. And so the little boy, you know, he's still skeptical, but you know, he's arrived at the airport. Him and his parents are gonna fly back home, and he's home, right? He's thinking everything's good, everything's over, right? So he gets a call from his grandma. She's telling him, you know, come visit us. This is like years later, like 5 years later. And she's like, come visit us, like we missed you. And he's like, his grandma calls him and she's telling him like, come visit us, we miss you. And he's like, I don't know if I should come back there. Like, after everything that happened, he's like, girl, you're crazy. Like, I don't want to come back there, you know? And she's like, no, like, everything's good. Like, you're gonna be good. Like, you know, everything will be great. We're gonna have fun. And he's like, still kind of like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, on the other end of the phone, he hears, "Po, po, po." And he's like, oh, hell no. And he hangs up. And that's where the story had ended. And I don't know about you guys, but I got chills right now. I'm in this room by myself, so I'm kind of freaked out. You know, it's all good. It's only a story, right? So, yeah, but, oh, guys, I got my nails done. How do you like them? I just love them so much. They're, like, so cute. And I hadn't had my nails done in a while. But anyway, so, yeah, that was the story of this week. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave, girl. And I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.